and gentlemen, council, staff, this is the Municipal Council meeting of Tuesday, May the 2nd, and it's 6 p.m. The agenda and all the materials, of course, have been perused by all councillors in advance of the meeting, so if the public sees us run through a couple of things fairly quickly that don't require discussion, please know that it's just because council's prepared. We'll begin the meeting with roll call, please. And once again, for those online, when we ask for an electronic vote on something such as roll call, it takes a little while for it to appear on the screen so that we can announce the result. I can announce that all of council is present this evening. That being the case, we'll move to item 2 of the agenda, which is approval of the agenda itself. If there are no issues with the agenda, I'd like a motion to approve, please. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Allen. Moved and seconded. All those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That's unanimously passed. The agenda is approved, and once the agenda is approved, and understand that there might have been some change in the agenda, but that was not the case. But we have the approved agenda before us. Now's the opportunity for any councillor who may have a conflict of interest with respect to any item on the agenda to disclose it now so that we can deal with that at the appropriate time. Is there any? Councillor Killam?
Thank you, Mayor. I declare a conflict on item 8E when it comes forward.
With respect to item 8E? Thank you, Councillor. Yes, it's 8E. Well, when we get to that item, I would just ask you to step away from the table, please. Thank you.
Will do.
Item number, any other conflicts of interest? Seeing none, then we move on to approval of the minutes of the meetings of March 21st, that was a special council meeting, March 28th, a joint council meeting, that is to say with other councils with respect to reports to be considered regarding recreation cooperation. And March 29th, a special council meeting regarding the budget, April 4th, our regular council meeting, and April 4th, our special council meeting with regard to the budget. I'd take a motion to approve all three, and then we'll deal with them individually. Moved by Councillor Granger, second by Councillor Killam. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please signify now or otherwise. That's unanimously passed. Thank you. Now, I'm asking whether or not any councillor has, in their reading of those minutes, noticed any errors or omissions, or whether there's any business arising from those minutes. Firstly, with regard to the minutes of March 21st, 2023 Special Council. Secondly, with regard to the March 28th, 2023 Joint Council. Item C, with regard to the March 29th, 2023 Special Council regarding budget. And lastly, E, item E, April 4th, 2023 Special Council. I'm sorry, did I do D? No. I'm sorry, item D, April 4th, 2023 Regular Council. Nothing raised. Item E, April 4th, 2023 Special Council with regard to budget. And there's nothing. That's just kudos to our secretary for on each of those meetings to have captured everything. Item 6, Planning Advisory Committee recommendations. The chair of the Planning Advisory Committee is Councillor Martha Armstrong. Councillor Armstrong, would you like to take those items, please?
Thank you, Mayor. The first item we have is that Municipal Council give first reading to and hold a public hearing regarding a land use bylaw text amendment to permit the development of a one-unit dwelling accessory to golf courses in the commercial recreation P1 zone as described in Appendix C of the report dated April 17, 2023. I so move.
And the seconder, the Deputy Mayor, any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That's unanimously passed. Had I voted in favor, but I forgot to vote. Would you please record my vote in favor? And it's unanimous. Item 6B.
That Municipal Council appoint Louis Benedict, Scott Lear, and Ernie Hobble, members of the Port Williams Village Commission, to sit on the Port Williams Area Advisory Committee for a one-year term ending March 31st, 2024. I so move.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Granger. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That's unanimously approved. Thank you. And Councillor, our next public hearing date is when?
Tuesday, June 6th, 6 p.m. in these chambers.
Thank you. Moving on then to item 7, Inspection and Enforcement Services. Mr. Brown will be presenting. After Mr. Brown presents, we have granted an opportunity to the niece of the lady who owns the property to say a few words to us via video link. Mr. Brown, when you're ready, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This evening I'm here to provide a presentation about a dangerous or unsightly property. The property in question is located at 5094 Highway 1, Waterville, Nova Scotia. PID number is 55305585 with the file number being 230022. The property, as mentioned, is located at 5094 Highway 1 in Waterville, identified as Highway 1 in red. The property is identified with the red star, and it's just west of the Bond Road and west of the Glad Gardens, as some of you may be familiar with. The second picture is an aerial photo identifying the property in question, known as 5094 Highway 1 in Waterville. I'll take you through a series of photos. The primary photos were taken on January 30th, 2023. The first photo identifies the property. It's the as 5094 Highway 1. You'll notice that there's two structures. The first one, that we're dealing with is the primary structure, the dwelling, the mobile. And there's also an accessory structure which is not part of the presentation. This is the north side of the mobile dwelling. The unsightliness is very minimal. That is not really what we're discussing this evening. As you can see, there are a bit of mild unsightly matters, overgrown trees, and some skirting issues here in this photo. This is the northeast side. We've identified some of the skirting. That's a bit of an issue there. The roof condition is an area of concern. The roof condition of this mobile structure, as you can see, there's some adhesive tape or patchwork that's been conducted over the years. There's been some what appears to be tarps that were placed on the roof to prevent leaking, likely melting snow from snow loads, etc. This is a second picture of the condition of the roof, again identifying some areas of concern with tarps that had been placed on the roof, cracking of the tar on the roof, which created leakage. This picture, This picture identifies some bricks and boards that were placed on the roof, likely to hold down tarps to prevent that leakage. This is the south side of the structure. We're identifying a few unsightly issues, one with being the derelict vehicle, unsightliness of the structure, some mild debris. South side of the structure, a derelict vehicle that's in the yard. As you can see, the contents is, the vehicle's full of contents from accumulation. Now we'll get inside of the mobile dwelling structure itself. So the entry to the dwelling, it is kind of hard to tell within this photo, but the floor is starting to sag. You can see that there's some debris on the area of the entry in the floor area. The second picture is the hallway of the dwelling. There is a heavy fire load, identified heavy fire load upon entry of taking photographs. You can see in the hallway, you can see the ceiling that has started to collapse. There's some buckets, which is really hard to see, but there are some buckets that have been placed there within the collapsed ceiling to collect water. And another picture identifying a bedroom located near the entry. You can again see the ceiling that started to collapse, some of the insulation, identifying water issues. With water issues comes electrical issues with the higher risk of fire. Again, heavy fire load. Another picture identifying a bedroom, collapse of the ceiling. There's buckets that have been placed there to collect water, buckets that have been placed in the window to collect water, the risk of mold and unhealthiness. And again, there's a risk to fire and life safety. Electrical issues could create fire. This is a picture of the washroom. A heavy fire load, the ceiling is starting to collapse. There's also, which was identified by family members, that the washroom facilities are no longer functionable. There was some remnants and evidence that buckets were being used to accumulate human waste. Another picture of the washroom. The ceiling collapse. This is just a different angle. Again, with the debris, the buckets of accumulation of possible waste. This is a picture of one of the neighboring properties just to the east. We always like to take some pictures to identify the upkeep of the neighborhood. And a second picture of a neighboring property just to the west. Bit of file history. A complaint was received on January 28th, 2023. January 28th is a Saturday. I received a call from a community member, which is also a member of the RCMP. The member of the RCMP had been contacted by family members to assist with what is known as a well-being check. He assisted with a well-being check with the family members, and upon entry of the dwelling, identified the owner, Ms. Freda Salzman, in medical distress, which she had to be assisted by paramedics and taken to the hospital. When we returned to work, the file was opened on January 30th of 2023. I briefed staff and we conducted an investigation. A joint investigation between bylaw enforcement and fire building staff was conducted. As a result, the dwelling was determined to be dangerous, unhealthy, and in a dilapidated state. A do not occupy order was also issued and posted on the dwelling. A copy of the order was provided to family members acting on behalf of the owner. and the dwelling was secured by the municipality at that time to prevent further entry without approval. This is a picture identifying the posted order. The do not occupy order is what we use in times such as this. And there's a couple of sections there that identify the issues and the concerns, and signed by both the administrator and the bylaw enforcement officer. This is a picture identifying the installation of the lock, which was installed by staff, and the municipality becomes the key holder. File history continued. On February 22nd, 2023, bylaw enforcement and the owner, Ms. Freda Salzman, engaged in correspondence. Ms. Salzman was served a letter of enforcement which outlined the concerns of the municipality. An enforcement letter provides 30 days to bring the property into compliance. So we issue a letter identifying what we have found, the evidence of a dangerous or unsightly property, and a time frame as to when to comply. And as of May 1st, 2023, compliance has not been gained, and the dwelling remains in a dangerous, unhealthy, and dilapidated state. Section 344 of the MGA states, every property in a municipality shall be maintained so as not to be dangerous or unsightly. Not less than 7 days' notice shall be given to the owner prior to a demolition meeting. The owner shall be made aware of the date, time, and place where the meeting will be held. On April 19th, 2023, a meeting letter was posted on the dwelling located at 5094 Highway 1, Waterville, and a copy of the letter was mailed to Ms. Freda Salzman. This picture identifies the 7-day notice that was posted on the mobile dwelling. And again, another picture just identifying the location of where it was posted. The administrator makes a recommendation to council as per the MGA, and the owner, if present, may speak at this time and prior to council making a final discussion. And council votes on the administrator's recommendation for demolition. And before you is the recommended motion.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. First of all, questions of clarification of Mr. Brown. Councillor Allen first. Did you have your light on, Councillor Allen?
I didn't put it on, no.
No? Okay. That's all right. Councillor Hurtle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. I think this is the third time I've seen something like this come before council, but the first time that we've really had an in-depth tour of the property internally. And part of my concern is this is something that may be breaching somebody's level of modesty. And so I have a concern that we've presented the name of the property owner and then took a tour through their house. And I understand the need for council to have to see this to make a decision, but I'm fairly uncomfortable that it's been presented to the entirety of Kings County. So I'm wondering with future applications, is this a requirement that we show this in a public forum? And perhaps we would be so kind as to protect the modesty of the property owner at the next possible situation in which we have to potentially issue a demolition order.
Would you like to handle that, or would you like me to handle it, Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can attempt to answer the question and
Please go
perhaps
ahead.
call upon you for some clarity. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hurtle, we always attempt to provide that dignity to anyone that we're dealing with, and these situations are not always easy. However, with a legal opinion, this is the process that we have taken throughout a number of years through this process. So, to my knowledge, the municipality is not infringing upon anyone's rights. But having said that, we do have to paint that picture of what we are faced with. So, keeping in mind, of course, that dignity also, but we wouldn't be attending a property or infringing upon anyone's rights and so on without cause. If that helps answer any type of question, your question there.
Does that respond, Councillor?
I think as sufficiently as possible, although sometimes I feel that there is a fine line between what we are able to do and what we should do. But I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I would just add that the procedure is a procedure set out in the Municipal Government Act. The reports are reports that must come to Council at the end of the process, and this is the end of the process. But before it came to Council, there were several contacts with the owner of the property and with the family of the owner of the property. And once it has to come to Council, then we have no authority to take it into an in-camera session. It must be in a public session. But I understand the points that you've made. I'm sure everybody did. But that's the process by which we're bound. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. And through you to Mr. Brown, I recognize that situations like this they're not unique. Like these are things that come up every so often. And I'm curious if the current state of affairs in regards to housing in Kings County is creating an added pressure to these types of situations. If you could speak to, I know it's a bit general, but you could speak to if this is becoming more common, if we're seeing dwellings that people are trying to hang on to longer because they simply have no other place to go, or is that becoming part of an issue? Is the situation potentially a symptom of that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Deputy Mayor Lutz, I don't think that we're seeing a higher volume. These types of situations seem to be, they're existing, but I'm not seeing anything added at this point. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Killam.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Terry. Just going by the pictures, I'm not aware of the situation with water and sewer, but if the roof was fixed on this property and the place cleaned, would it still could it be served as a residence for somebody?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Killam, no, I don't believe so. Just based on the report of our fire and building official, Mr. Daphne, and our bylaw enforcement officers, that the structural integrity is too far gone. The floor is starting to collapse. The ceiling and the roof are in question. I don't believe so. It would take further engineering, so to speak, I don't believe so, no.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions of clarification? I have a comment in which there may be a question to be answered. Looking at the photographs, it's clear that the property as it currently exists is not capable of being lived in with any degree of safety. In addition to the evidence of some serious clutter issues, accumulation, blocking of hallways, filling of rooms with materials, which leads one to believe that the person is in need of more than just help with housing. Do you know whether any help is being provided to her, or whether anybody has attempted to tap resources on her behalf? You say you've dealt with the family, for example, and the police.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. From my knowledge and the dealing of with the family members is that the owner is seeking assistance. She has a social worker, and I believe is still within the hospital environment and seeking assistance and further help. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a conundrum when you look at an individual in this situation where this is their home, and it's not one in which they can reside safely, and yet you don't know what their options are, nor whether anybody's prepared to step up and help them recondition the property or make another property available for them to live in. It becomes a very social services oriented problem, and it would be nice to know that there was help there for the individual. There being no further questions of clarification, perhaps Madam Clerk, you could take us, give the niece of the individual an opportunity to address council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have Ms. Tanya Wilson joining us virtually, and she, if she wishes to make any comments, if she unmutes her mic, she should be able to just speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. You go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening on behalf of my family. Today, if you were to drive by 5094 Highway 1, you would not notice anything out of the ordinary from the road. The exterior of the structure does not disclose the secrets that lie within. My aunt has always been very conscientious of the appearance of her property. When the tarp on her roof that was installed as a temporary measure 4 years ago began to fray, she systematically collected the pieces from the neighboring properties. We are here today discussing her property because my aunt had a stroke sometime on January 26th or 27th and was not found until almost 2 days later when her sister came over to check on her. The EMTs were unable to gain access through the doors and so went in through an open window. I believe it was the bathroom. Upon entry, they were likely overcome with what lay before them. I know that I was. I've come to understand that this is due to mental illness. Hoarding can be a result of past trauma, of not feeling safe, and even OCD. And like all mental illness, it is attached to stigma. Without the significant health event, we would have had no idea that this property was unsafe and non-compliant with Municipal Government Act Section 344. So although I understand, I respect and support the direction of the municipality, I would be remiss if I did not say that all actions required to be completed by my aunt were required while she lay recuperating in hospital, unable to act and without an appointed power of attorney. When this property is demolished, she will be losing everything: her mementos, her photographs, and all of her clothing. I would like to thank Dylan, Terry, Daryl for their empathy, their professionalism, for answering my numerous questions, and for all assistance provided during this challenging time. I know that we did all we could legally, and I know nothing would have been accomplished without their cooperation. All this to say that if you have a loved one who lives alone, you should check in on them. I mean, really check in on them to make sure things are okay. And just one more piece, if I could address, I think it was the mayor's comment. We are seeking, I've been supporting my aunt, and we are seeking admission to long-term care for her future care and health needs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Did you have a specific opinion as to whether the recommendation of Mr. Brown should be accepted by council?
I do support Mr. Brown's recommendation because without an appointed power of attorney, The family is unable to act on her behalf.
Are there things within the structure that the family wishes to have extracted before, assuming that council accepts the recommendation? Are there things within the structure that the family would like to extricate prior to any action taken?
There are, but there are no volunteers willing to go in. As you can imagine, it's a health risk to all the people that enter. You could fall through the floor. And I mean, I've spent 8 hours in there with the permission of the municipality. And you could fall through the floor, the roof could fall on you, you could be covered with debris, and you still can't locate the actual valuables. So I think we're okay to let it go.
All right, thank you very much for your input, Ms. Wilson. We express our sympathies to your aunt and the family. That's a terrible circumstance to be faced with. Thank you.
It is. Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Brown, there we go. I was about to say I have some difficulty reading the recommendation, but I can read it now. Thank you. So the recommended motion from Mr. Brown is that the Municipal Council order that within 30 days of the date of this order, Frida Salzman shall, or through her representative shall, A, demolish the dwelling located at 5094 Highway 1, Waterville, in the County of Kings, Province of Nova Scotia. B, remove all debris from the property and dispose of it according to law. And C, completely fill in the site of the foundation so that it is level with the surrounding grade of the land, if there is such work to be done. Failure to comply with this order shall result in prosecution and fines and/or the municipality entering upon the property to effect demolition, cleanup, and all other required work as outlined above. All costs of demolition and required work shall be a first lien against the property. Do I have a mover of the motion? Moved by Councillor Hurdle. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Harding. Is there any discussion on the motion? Councillor Hurdle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I absolutely do not like making this motion, but I know the necessity for the order, and with the at least consent of the family, I am somewhat okay making the recommended motion, and I understand the need for this, so those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Deputy Mayor Lutz.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank Ms. Wilson for her comments and to let her know that if there's anything we as a council can do to support her, or if there's any community actions that can be taken to support the family, that council is always willing to help and support.
Thank you. I hope she remained with us to hear that. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion or otherwise, please vote now. The motion's unanimously passed, Mr. Brown. One would take it from what has been said both by yourself and by Ms. Wilson that the individual may not be competent. That might present some difficulties for you. I'm sure you're able to overcome, but yeah, it's a sad situation. Thanks for your report. We'll move on now to the next item, administration. Item 8A, special election and district dates, preparations, and the clerk will report on that, Madam Clerk, when you're ready. You can handle Oh, you've gone to the center. I was looking over at your station. There you go.
I thought I'd just switch it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, Council. Presenting to you on the special election in District 8 that we need to hold due to the resignation of the councillor for that district. And there are a number of statutory requirements that we need decisions on from Council. I'm sorry, I just realized I have the wrong presentation in front of me here. So I'm just going to grab the
Take
other
a
one.
moment. Take a walk. I've been accused of the same thing a few times.
Oh, thank you for making me feel a little bit better.
There you
go. So there are some statutory requirements that we need council decisions on so that we can proceed with preparing for this special election. So there are actually 7 items. I'll go through them one at a time, just a little bit of background information on each, and then the recommended motion. I would ask that we take votes on the recommendations at the end of my presentation so that I can do them from the clerk's computer over there. But I'm happy to take any questions at any time. So the first item is the date for the special election. Per the Municipal Elections Act, Council sets the date within 4 weeks of delivery of the resignation, and the resignation was delivered on April the 18th. The date shall be a Saturday, not more than 11 weeks after setting a date. So if we set the date tonight, it has to happen within 11 weeks. The proposed date is Saturday, June the 24th. A later date in July we see as not being preferred because we get into summer vacations. The returning officer that I'll speak a little bit about later on is actually away for a week during that period of time. One of the Saturdays, July 1st, is Canada Day, so that is not an option. So that's why we're proposing Saturday, June the 24th. And so the recommendation on that is that Municipal Council set the date for the special election in District 8 as Saturday, June the 24th, 2023, and that's per Section 13, subsection 1 of the Municipal Elections Act.
Thank you. Do you want to deal with them one at a time, or would you like to deal with them all
I
at
can certainly
once?
take questions
Any
one at a time.
Questions of clarification on what's been presented so far? No? We'll deal with the motions all at once, shall we?
That sounds good. Thank
Okay.
you. So the next item is the advance poll dates. So that's another requirement in the Municipal Elections Act. The first advance poll is a set date in the Municipal Elections Act. That's Tuesday, the 4th day before Election Day. So if Election Day is June the 24th, that would be June 20th. And Council sets one other day, and that can either be Thursday, the 9th day before Election Day, which would be June the 15th, or it can be Saturday, the 7th day before Election Day, which would be June the 17th. E-voting is recommended to be the week leading up to Election Day, so that would be June the 17th until closing of the polls on June the 24th. So we're therefore recommending June the 17th. And I should note that we propose that on those advanced poll dates, we would have electronic voting only. That was the same in the regular municipal election in 2020. So it really is just meeting the statutory requirement that Council sets the date. And so the recommendation for this item would be that Municipal Council set the other advanced poll date for the special election in District 8 as Saturday, June the 17th, 2023, and that's per Section 114, subsection 4, subsection B of the Act.
Thank you. Any questions of clarification of the presenter on this particular aspect of the election? Electronic voting includes voting by telephone. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Armstrong?
So, just for my own, noggin, this is just, these don't mean anything. We're not going to have anything set up as an advanced poll. presumably we're going to be doing this by e-voting. So e-voting will open, before this, and yeah. So you can vote anytime.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Armstrong, it's partly correct. So it means something in a sense that we propose that electronic voting would start on that first advance poll on June the 17th, up till and including Election Day on June the 24th. But you're correct that we wouldn't actually have any physical polls on those advance poll days. What we will have is help desk staff available to assist voters with e-voting. I'll get into that in a little bit more detail. Starting on the 17th.
Okay,
that's
thank you.
correct.
So it's advance poll as opposed to holding the election simply on one day, the election day. The advance poll is any time up to and including the election day. Is that correct?
I agree with you on that, Mr. Mayor. It really would be advance voting during that whole week leading up to Election Day.
Thank you. Councillor Hurdle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, do we know what percentage of voting took place during the last municipal election and was captured on the advanced polling electronic voting?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hurdle. You actually beat me to it. I was going to provide some of that information. We do have those numbers in 2020. In the entire municipality, 74.5% voted electronically, so it was either internet or phone. And in District 8, where the special election is going to be, that percentage was a little bit higher even. It was 79.2% that selected e-voting.
Sorry, go ahead.
Would it be safe to say then that the election was almost decided but unknown prior to the actual election day?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hurdle, I think it's fair to say, yes.
Thank you.
Although one never knows how many more are going to come out on election day, do they?
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for clarification, the person asked me the other day if they were allowed, or would it be possible to vote on a landline phone?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Allen, yes, it can be landline, cell phone, and as mentioned before, over the internet.
So landline, would be a person to answer or take the vote verbally?
No, I believe that a number will be provided and you will be taken automatically through the electronic voting process. You have to select certain options. We will also have a number here at the municipality for voters to contact members of the help desk for information or assistance.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So vote 1 to count for Councillor Jones, vote 2 for Councillor Smith, or candidate Smith. Councillor Harding.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Yanni. I've got a lot of questions on how much this is going to cost. Have you got any idea? Just a figure that we're using for our budget for this?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Harding. Yes, included in the request for decision was a table with the preliminary budget estimate. It is very preliminary for obvious reasons, but we would be looking at approximately, if it would be electronic voting only, we would be looking at approximately just over $32,000 in cost for this election. If paper balloting were to be added, the cost would be just over $36,000.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions of clarification to this point? No? Please proceed.
All right, so we'll get into the voting method, which is what we also need a decision on council on, and we've covered a little bit of that already. So per the Municipal Elections Act, Council may, by bylaw, authorize voters to vote by mail, electronically, or other methods. So any methods other than traditional paper balloting, a bylaw would be required. As already mentioned, electronic voting is both internet and telephone. In 2020, during the regular municipal election, it was a combination of paper and e-voting, so it was a hybrid voting method. And the numbers that I already provided, I'll just repeat those. So in the entire municipality, 74.5% of eligible voters selected electronic voting, and in District 8, the percentage was a little bit higher, 79.2% selected electronic voting.
Just on those points, are we saying, as I think we are, but I need clarification, are we saying 74.5% of those people who voted by e-voting?
That's correct. Yes.
Not 74.5% of the people that are eligible to vote?
It was of the
persons who voted.
Persons who actually voted.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
So just a little bit more on this. If we were to add paper balloting, obviously that would increase the cost, mostly because we would require poll workers. The cost of printing would be higher because we would have to have ballots printed. Preparations there would be more preparation required as well for a hybrid election. And given the 2020 numbers, we don't expect a substantial impact on voter turnout. Again, as mentioned, voters would still be able to come in person on election day. If they feel, for whatever reason, uncomfortable voting electronically, they would be able to come in on election day to vote in person. It would still be an electronic vote, but there would be assistance available for that voting. And the plan is the period of time, so that week leading up to election day, June the 17th to the 24th, we would have help desk workers available here at the municipal building. They would be available by phone as well. And on election day, the plan is to have a physical presence in New Minas at the Louis Millet Community Complex, so that members of the public who are just used to coming in person to vote, or for whatever reason prefer to do that in person, they would be able to come to the Louis Millet Center and vote. It would still be an electronic vote, but so that is the plan. And again, just to repeat, electronic voting would be available from June the 17th until the closing of polls on June the 24th. So with that, staff's recommendation is that Municipal Council resolve to conduct a special election in District 8 by electronic voting, internet and telephone, and that's per section 146A, subsection 1 of the Act. And as mentioned before, an alternative voting bylaw will be required if Council chooses electronic voting. And Vicky is here ready and willing to present on that if and when we get to that point.
Okay, another issue of clarification, Councillor Hurtle.
Thank you. And is there any requirement for in-person electronic voting for people to bring their own devices, or will devices be provided?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Would devices be provided, electronic devices, to conduct electronic voting?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hurtle, we will have a computer, laptop, or tablet available for members of the public to vote. They wouldn't have to bring in their own devices.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
All right, ready for item 4?
Yes.
Okay, that is the appointment of the returning officer. The Municipal Elections Act states that Council shall appoint a returning officer, but Council may delegate its powers of appointment to the clerk or the CAO. Very happy to note that the returning officer who ran the 2020 election is available again to conduct the special election. Ms. Barr Billsley-Jess. She did an excellent job, so she will be able to hit the ground running. And As you may understand, it is a very tight timeline, so preparations for the special election have to start immediately. I've already been in contact with Ms. Ilsley Jess for the past few days to sort out some of the particulars, and she's available to come in as early as Thursday to start work on the special election. And so the recommendation, therefore, is that Council delegate its powers of appointment of a returning officer pursuant to Section 4, subsection 1C of the Act to the CAO, so that we can appoint the returning officer within the next couple of days.
Questions? No? Please proceed.
Item number 5 is the list of electors. The Municipal Elections Act offers 3 options. Council can select option A, which is to conduct an enumeration. Option B is to use the list prepared in the most recent federal or provincial election, or an election held pursuant to the Act. And option C is any permanent register of electors established and maintained for use in a federal or provincial election. Option C has been used in all recent elections, and that's because that's really the most up-to-date list. It's the list that's being maintained by Elections Nova Scotia, and they continuously update that list based on, for example, the Registry of Motor Vehicles and death records, etc. So that's why the recommendation is to select option C, that Municipal Council approve the use of the permanent register of electors established and maintained by Elections Nova Scotia as the basis for the list for the municipality of the County of Kings in the special election in District 8, and that's per Section 30, subsection 2, subsection C of the Act.
Thank you. Councillor Allen may have a question relating to a previous slide. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just wondering how much we would save by not hiring an election officer and have the CAO do it. What's the saving? I was just wondering.
We have to appoint a returning officer, do we not, according to the Act?
We, through to Councillor Allen, we do have to, Council does have to appoint or delegate its powers to appoint an elections officer, but it may be a municipal staff member. It doesn't have to be an external person. I'm not sure if I am able to disclose the amount that we're proposing to pay the returning officer. I would look to the CAO to see if I would be able to disclose that amount. We have a draft contract ready for her, but I'm not sure if that is confidential information.
If she hasn't signed it yet, then it's a contract matter that would be only handled in camera at this stage of the game.
Right. So unfortunately, I'm unable to answer that question.
However, to the root of the question was whether we could forego having an external returning officer altogether and have someone within the building become the returning officer. Was that the question?
In that?
I'm sorry, you'll have to say that again because I didn't have your mic on.
I was just interested in knowing the amount of money that council would save by going that route.
Okay, well, I think that will become apparent as we are going into an in-camera session today, so if you wouldn't mind raising that in camera, that would...
Very good.
We can make that apparent.
Thank you.
Councillor Meisner.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to highlight that the preliminary budget estimate is in our agenda package. If anyone is questioning about fiscal specifics, it is in our agenda package. What is suggested or estimated to be the budget for this special election. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further items of clarification? Seeing none, we can proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So item 6, we're almost there, is the date for amendments to the list of electors. The Act states that on or before the date chosen by Council on the advice of the returning officer, The preliminary lists and amendments are to be provided to the returning officer, and the returning officer to be, perhaps, recommended that that date be May 26, 2023. And so the recommendation for this item is that per Section 38, subsection 1 of the Act, that Council set May 26, 2023 as the date by which the amended list of electors is to be provided to the returning officer.
Questions or clarification? Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Yanni. So until we have that amended list of electors, we have no way of knowing if that number has gone up or significantly down from the last election. You know, if it was 4,000 last time, it could be 45 now, it could be 35 now. But we won't have any way of knowing that until that amended list is available, correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Armstrong, that is correct. So we would initially receive the preliminary list of electors from Elections Nova Scotia. That would give us a good indication. But then once the returning officer looks at revisions to the list, once we have that final list, we wouldn't know the exact number. That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Was that the last recommendation?
I have
Oh,
one
you have
more, if
more,
I may.
okay.
The final item is the tariff of fees and expenses. The Act states that Council shall, by resolution, make a tariff of fees and expenses to be paid to any person for services and expenses under the Act, and Council may delegate its authority to the clerk or the CAO. So the returning officer would submit a proposed tariff to the CAO for his consideration if Council decides to delegate its authority to the clerk or the CAO. So some of the positions that would be included on that tariff of fees and expenses, depending on the voting method, obviously. If it's just electronic voting, it would mostly be just help desk workers. If it is a hybrid, including paper balloting, it would be a poll supervisor, a deputy returning officer, a poll clerk. So those would be the types of positions that would be included on that tariff. And again, given that time is of the essence, we recommend that per Section 139, subsection 1A of the Act, that Council delegate to the CAO its authority to make, revise, and amend the tariff of fees and expenses, and provide for a method of rendering and verifying accounts for payment relating to the 2023 special election in District 8.
Thank you. Questions or clarification? There are none.
So just a few other comments relating to this in terms of alternatives. I may have already covered some of them. In terms of the election date, we don't really recommend any alternatives. As I mentioned a little bit later in July, does not appear to be an option, so June the 24th seems to be the latest possible date. In terms of an advance poll, the Council would have the option to set the 9th day prior to Election Day, which would be June the 15th. Not recommended because we recommend that electronic voting starts on June the 17th. In terms of the voting method, I've provided some criteria to select electronic voting only. We, as staff, don't recommend adding paper balloting because we have limited preparation time. Paper balloting would also add to the cost. We do definitely recommend electronic voting given the numbers from the 2020 election. In terms of an appointment of returning officer, we do recommend that Council authorizes the CAO to appoint the returning officer, again, because of the limited time for preparations. The list of electors, I've explained that the permanent register that's maintained by Elections Nova Scotia is the most up-to-date list. That's why we're recommending that option. The date for amendments to the list of electors, we're not recommending any alternatives as we would prefer to go with the date that is recommended by the returning officer. And in terms of the tariff and fees of expenses, we do recommend Council authorizes the CAO to make the tariff, again, because of limited preparation time. In terms of financial implications, already touched on that. So the preliminary budget estimate, and that's based on electronic voting only, would be just over $32,000. That would come from the municipal election reserve. Adding paper balloting would cost approximately $4,000 more. And the annual contribution to the municipal election reserve would be increased in the next fiscal year to ensure that there will be sufficient funds available for the regular election next year in October. And that's the end of my presentation, and happy to take any further questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions that haven't been already asked? No? It's an interesting procedure from a candidate's point of view. If we were to announce, do a media saturation and make everyone aware very quickly that this was happening, then potential candidates would have to make up their minds very quickly, and then they would have to find the appropriate number of persons to sign their papers very quickly, and then they would have to get them in here very quickly, and then they would have to arrange for signs to be made very quickly if they were going to use signs and literature, and they'd have to hit the doorsteps very quickly. So the timelines are short. I recognize the area, geographically speaking, is condensed, so that's on the plus side for a candidate. The other thing, of course, is that the folks who run have to understand that this is a by-election. They're going to be filling an uncompleted term, which is only a year, really. At least so they better save their signs, is what I'm saying, if they plan to really get involved in municipal politics. And they are, like all the rest of us who choose to run again, in danger of not being elected again. So this is a commitment, and it needs to be made very quickly. So I certainly hope that we get the word out quickly so that people can make decisions about whether or not they're going to run. Councillor Hurdle?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And so obviously we are looking for qualified candidates potentially. Is there anything preventing councillors who previously ran in District 8 and resigned from running in this election?
Yes, there is. Once you resign, you can't withdraw your resignation for the term that you resigned in.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Is there a contingency if we don't, just my worry is with the short timeline, we don't actually have anyone put their name forward?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Deputy Mayor, I believe there's no contingency. As far as I know, that's it.
It just stays vacant until the next regular election?
Yes. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
It would, if the resignation would have come within 6 months of the end of this council's term, we would not have been required to hold a special election. So it really is for, as the mayor pointed out, really a period of only about a year.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Harding. Your light's on.
I didn't know.
Didn't intend it?
No.
Would you like to
I
ask
got
a
a question now.
Okay.
No. I just want to thank Yanni for all the work she's did on this so far. So, yeah, it's a lot to bring into the table, that's for sure. So, I guess it's up to us to make those great decisions now. So, thank you.
It is. Once all the work's done, then it's up to us, yes. And it's not finished yet, is it? No.
This is only the beginning.
It's only the beginning. So if you'd like to roll back to the recommendations, we'll deal with them one at a time. The first recommendation is that Municipal Council set the date for the special election in District 8 as Saturday, June 24th, 2023, pursuant to Section 13, Sub 1 of the Municipal Elections Act. Could I have a mover of the motion? Moved by Councillor Armstrong, seconded by Councillor Meisner. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That's unanimously passed. Thank you. The second recommendation is that Municipal Council set the other, as that term is used in the Act, advance poll date for the special election in District 8 as Saturday, June 17th, 2023, per Section 114, Sub 4, Sub B of the Municipal Elections Act. A mover of the motion, Councillor Allen, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That's unanimously passed. Thank you. And the third recommendation is that Municipal Council resolve to conduct the special election in District 8 by electronic voting, that is to say, internet and telephone, per Section 146A, Sub 1 of the Municipal Elections Act. A mover of the motion, Councillor Armstrong, seconded by Councillor Granger. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. The motion is passed unanimously. The fourth recommendation is that Municipal Council delegate its powers of appointment of a returning officer pursuant to Section 4, Sub 1C of the the Municipal Elections Act to the Chief Administrative Officer. A mover of the motion, Deputy Mayor. Seconder, Councillor Granger. Thank you. I thought that was going to fail for lack of a seconder. Any discussion? All those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That's passed unanimously. Thank you. And the fifth recommendation is that Municipal Council approve the use of the permanent register of electors established and maintained by Elections Nova Scotia as the basis for the list of electors for the municipality of the County of Kings in the special election in District 8, pursuant to subsection 30, sub 2, sub C of the Municipal Elections Act. A mover of the motion, Councillor Allen, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. Councillor Meisner, did you intend to vote in favor? So that's unanimously passed. Thank you. And the sixth recommendation is that per Section 38, Sub 1 of the Municipal Elections Act, the Municipal Council set May 26, 2023 as the date by which the amended list of directors is to be provided to the returning officer. Could I have a mover of the motion, please? Moved by Councillor Armstrong, seconded by Councillor Meisner. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. And that is passed unanimously. Thank you. And they keep on coming. Recommendation number 7. Per Section 139, Sub 1A of the Municipal Elections Act, Municipal Council delegate the Chief Administrative Officer its authority to make, revise, and amend the tariff of fees and expenses and provide for a method of rendering and verifying accounts for payment relating to the 2023 special election in District 8. A mover of the motion, please. Councillor Allen, seconded by Councillor Harding. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That's unanimously passed. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. We are moving on to item 8B, amendments to Bylaw 108, alternative voting for the 2023 special election. An explanation from Ms. Brooke. While you're setting up, Ms. Brooke, I want to acknowledge the presence of Mr. Jason Hahn, our municipal advisor in the building. Thank you for attending this evening. We may need your advice before the evening's over. Ms. Brooke, when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of council. This evening, I'm presenting recommended amendments to Bylaw 108, which is your alternative voting bylaw. Amendments to this bylaw relate directly to the motion most recently passed in the last agenda item to conduct the forthcoming special election through alternative voting methods, particularly internet and telephone voting. Municipal elections are governed by the aptly named Municipal Elections Act. This act establishes in section 146A sub 1 that a council may authorize a voting method other than conventional paper ballots, and this must be done in a bylaw. Bylaw 108, the alternative voting bylaw, was adopted in July of 2020 and applied to the October 2020 regular election only. This bylaw has been on the municipality's books since that time, and because it's still an active bylaw, what we will be doing is recommending amendments to it to enable internet and telephone voting for the special election. The amendments under consideration today have been limited to those required for this special election only and do not apply to any elections beyond this one instance. And any decisions related to voting methods for future elections will be decided at some future point. The information on this and the following slide is on the more technical side. So I will issue a general statement that to council and the public that this bylaw conforms to requirements of the Municipal Elections Act. So it has been reviewed by our returning officer for use in this election and has been previously used without issue. So where a council wishes to have a bylaw for alternative voting, the Municipal Elections Act requires that there must be certain items addressed in the bylaw. Listed beside each requirement on the screen, in brackets, is where this item has been addressed. So first, notification of electors is addressed in section 3, form of the ballots in section 4, swearing in and voting in section 5 of the bylaw, the method for counting ballots or votes in section 6 of the bylaw, rejection of ballots or votes in section 6.9 of the bylaw. And for your awareness, this section in turn references section 108 of the Municipal Elections Act on the rejection of ballots. The Municipal Elections Act also provides that certain items may be addressed in the alternative voting bylaw. Upon advice of the returning officer and staff's experience in the past election using this bylaw, we have included only one item, which is from section 146A subsection 3, item CC, on additional hours and dates for voting in an advance poll. And this is to include voting 24 hours a day. So in section 2.3 of the alternative voting bylaw, we have proposed that voting be available 24 hours a day from June 17th through June 24th. The recommended motion is on the screen, and I can take any questions of council.
Thank you, Ms. Brooke. Are there any questions of clarification? No? Then what you've said is extremely clear. Thank you. I'll put the recommendation and ask whether any councillor is prepared to move it as a motion of council. It's been recommended that Municipal Council give first reading to amendments to Bylaw 108, being the alternative voting bylaw of the Municipality of the County of Kings, as attached to the May 2nd, 2023 Council agenda. Do I have a mover of the motion? Councillor Armstrong. Seconded by Councillor Killam. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That's unanimously passed. Thank you. That takes us to item 8C, Group Benefit Plan, Councillor Coverage, and any changes with respect to that. And our presenter on that particular item is our Human Resources. Pardon me? Manager. He didn't like me calling you chief, but I said it off mic. I didn't, you know. So, Ms. Nichols, take it away when you're ready.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. This evening, I'm presenting the request for decision regarding the potential modifications to the municipality's group benefit plan. The intent is to communicate information received from our service provider regarding extending the age limit and coverage for members over the age of 70 and seek instruction from council on administration seeking a plan modification to come into effect at the commencement of the term of the next municipal council. I'm having technical difficulty here. Oh.
Little technical glitch here.
Technical glitch. Yeah.
While we sort that out, I hasten to say that that over 70 is a very limited phrase. Apparently, I'm not included in over 70, but that's a topic for another day.
So currently our coverage for long-term disability and travel ceases at the age of 65. And currently our life, AD&D, health and dental coverage ceases at age 70 for all active members in our plan. That includes both council and staff. The potential plan modifications would have the coverage for life, AD&D, health and dental cease at the age of 75. LTD and travel coverage would remain the same and cease at the age of 65. Coverage to the age of 75 would apply only to active members who have not yet turned 70 prior to the implementation date of the plan. So a plan modification at this point would not alter the current provision of coverage or lack thereof to present-day council members. Also, with the plan modification, 50%, there would be a 50% reduction in life coverage after the age of 70. So up to the age of 70, for example, if you had $25,000 in coverage, between 70 and 75, that would be reduced to $12,500. So for potential premium implications, there would be no immediate material change for health and dental coverage premiums, as the premium cost is based on usage. There would be an immediate increase in life insurance coverage of right now be about 5.5% to the life group rate, as it would be applied to all active members of council and staff. So we would have to investigate further any change in premiums to confirm them closer to October 2024. So the recommendation is before you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions of clarification on the presentation? Councillor Granger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just wondering how they came up with the magic number of 70. Why is that the big number?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Granger, the magic number of 70 for current coverage? Mm-hmm. That's a good question. It was when our plan was started before my time. Those were the ages, and we've never investigated changing.
Great, thank you.
I think the answer is that when the plan was instituted in the Ice Age, people didn't live that long. Councillor Hurtle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, with the 5.5% immediate increase, that's an individual cost, right? That would be a 5.5% increase to the individual staff and council, or is that absorbed via the municipality in paying these benefits?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hurdle, the 5.5% immediate increase, it would be to our group rate. So currently, each group is, what portion is paid by the municipality differs. So that's our group rate. So it would depend on how each person's rate is calculated, each group. We have our union staff, the rates are calculated differently than the non-union staff, and the council is, the way they pay is a little different as well, just because the coverage isn't all the same.
Do we know roughly what this cost would then have on a staff person who is under the age of 70, who's currently partaking in the benefit?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hurdle. No, we didn't investigate that deeply yet, but if we do decide to make plan changes, of course, we'll have more distinct numbers to know exactly what the numbers are. But there will be an increase to life, because it does, I think the change from 70 to 75, the chances of, unfortunately, that life insurance being used is more likely to happen. Certainly. So the underwriters, of course, have to put that benefit in there. Sorry.
And so if there is an increase potentially to individual staff, is there an opportunity for that increased rate to be covered by the municipality, so there's no obvious penalization to staff currently partaking? If it's fair to say penalization?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hurdle, that probably would not be my decision to make, but I'm sure it would be something that could be considered.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Armstrong.
So the 5.5% increase that you're talking about, that's going to take effect like immediately? Or is this when all of these things are worked out?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Armstrong, that would be on the implementation date.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because, I mean, it stands to reason that most benefit plans have increases every year. You know, I mean, things change, right?
Correct.
And so that's not what you're talking about. We may be looking at an increase this year beyond what we're talking about here, just because that's the way insurance works. I mean, everything goes up, everybody gets older,
right.
Whether or not you're 70 or, 35.
Right.
So.
Our rates are set currently now. We're set at April 1st. We have actually a 3-year rate guarantee currently.
Okay.
If
so
we don't make any
unless we make
to our
these
plan.
changes, our rate is guaranteed for the next 3 years.
Yes.
As of April 1st. Okay. Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just curious why we haven't had to wait to 2024 and not change it as of now, going forward.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Allen, it has never been something that's been brought forward. I guess that's the reason it hasn't been. Normally what happens with our group insurance, we get a lot of asks, can we change this, can we change that, and we look at the plan and we have suggestions from our carriers also to change certain things, and this is just something that's never come up.
Okay. But if we had wanted, would we have been able to change it?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Allen, I believe so. When we did do the ask, we are told that it looks like we can do it.
Okay. If we wait long enough, the problem will just die and go away.
I am not the problem, I just want to say. Councillor Armstrong.
Just for my own information, how many, you might have to guess, but how many staff are over the age of 70?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Armstrong, we have 1.
Right. So in essence, these changes are being made to accommodate council. We have the highest percentage of over 70 in this building. Am I not wrong?
Yes.
It's okay to say
No,
yes.
you're not wrong.
It's
You're
okay,
not wrong.
it's okay to say
You're
yes.
not wrong.
Yes,
Yeah.
all right, thank you.
Oh, my. Councillor Hurtle.
I'm fairly averse to actions that may be potentially seen as self-serving for council, even though this directly doesn't impact me other than the potential increase in rate. Is there an ability to expand the coverage for the individual staff person who is at the age of 70 while not including council, so as to ensure a reduced rate?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hurtle. Our plan is for staff, council, and we also have various villages, Valley Waste, King's Transit. Our plan changes would affect the group. We can't make a change just for councillors or just for staff. So any plan modifications we make will be for the group plan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions of clarification? Bearing in mind that the recommendation before you is that we, as a council, instruct the CAO to investigate the modification of our group plan in accordance with the details contained in the related request for decision. That is to say, we're not deciding right now whether the change will be made. The CAO will investigate the plan. I can say, for the benefit of council, that the original concept arose at the request of Councillor Windsor, and because he was surprised to realize that that as he reached his 70th birthday, he would not be covered by the plan. So that triggered administration to say, well, we should examine that and come up with a recommendation. So it's been recommended that Municipal Council instruct the Chief Administrative Officer to investigate a modification to the municipality's group benefit plan in accordance with the details contained in the related May 2nd, 2023 request for decision. Do I have a mover of the motion? Moved by Councillor Allen, seconded by Councillor Harding. Any discussion on the motion? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to say I support this idea, and I think it's indicative of the idea that people don't want to retire, people are working longer, people are living longer, people are healthy longer, and actually I think it's a really positive move. So I will be supporting the motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor Renner, any other comments, discussion, debate? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. I'm sorry, Councillor Killam, did I...
I'm in conflict on this one.
On the upcoming one?
No, this one, because I'm over 70.
Well, while we're sharing secrets... Perhaps we take a poll. The motion has been passed. If Councillor Hurtle were voting, I could say there was either a declination. Right now, you're a negative vote, Councillor. Is that where you want to be on this question?
I mean, I did have some statements prior to my vote, but I pushed the button last minute, so it was not seen before the vote was called. So with that, without my statements made, I'll allow it to be counted as a negative.
Thank you.
For this.
Just wanted to be clear, the board wasn't indicating to me whether or not you were abstaining, or which would be a negative vote, or whether you were actually out there on one side or the other. So the motion has been passed. Thanks very much. The CAO will take it under consideration and come back to us with a report. We're moving, now I want to remind you that although we appear to be whipping through the agenda, and we will take a break when somebody signifies that they need a health break, we will be having a fairly short in-camera session at the end of this meeting to discuss contractual matters. We're moving now to item 8D, Sustainable Services Growth Fund, and the CAO is carrying that brief this evening. Mr. CAO, when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Council. A bit of a good news story. The Department of Municipal Affairs and Housing, I'm sure through Jason's efforts here, has relayed to us that our municipality was awarded $72,470 under the new Sustainable Services Growth Fund. So we've received and executed an agreement, and the funds are in the municipality's bank account. There's some terms and conditions that are associated with this $1.9 million, which include that it's to be expended on tangible capital assets, so it's not an operating type of thing. It's a capital-related item, and only for capital expenses that are incurred after April 1, 2023. So there's some eligible expenses which include housing, seniors, long-term care, accessibility, active transportation, municipal infrastructure such as water, wastewater, and solid waste. So this is sort of a representative, I believe, from memory. There are a few others. Funds can be used also can be used as the municipal portion in other cost-shared projects which satisfy the terms of of that particular fund. So oftentimes we'll come to council and we'll talk about things like stacking, that you have to have so much of your own money on the table. So in certain circumstances, we can use this funding, this $1.9 million, as our share of another cost-shared program. Continuation here on terms and conditions. Ineligible expenditures would include operating and administrative costs. As I mentioned, this is strictly for tangible capital assets. But we are also not eligible for legal fees or land purchases that may be associated with tangible capital asset expense. The project end date of March 31st, 2025, often referred to as a sunset provision. So we have to be wound up and have the money spent by that time. And there's a requirement to file a program closeout report, which includes a statement of expenditures. The fund, some considerations here. This is really intended tonight to be a briefing note just to make you aware of this. There's something else that would be more robust forthcoming. But in our considerations at the staffing level, we wanted to point out that the fund was not considered during the capital budget approval process, and that we would be returning to council with a supplementary budget report that considers any changes in capital asset financing related to projects not yet commenced. So for example, the supplemental budget could come in and say, we had, as one example, intended to borrow money to do a certain project. Would we replace that borrowing with part of this $1.9 million, as one example. We might come back and look at a potential reordering or commencement of certain capital projects. So something might have been in year 2, 3, 4, or 5, and we want to advance that in one of these next 2 fiscal years to be before that sunset clause. So there may be a reordering of certain capital projects, and also there may be a possible introduction of new projects. So the one example is relates to our active transportation plan and the paving of shoulders, trying to dovetail on Nova Scotia Public Works activity in that area. So there may be conceivably other projects that weren't discussed during the budgetary process that are tabled as part of a supplementary budget report. So in terms of financial implications, this is a new source of capital financing for fiscal years ending March 31, 24, and 25. Again, the sunset is March 31 of 2025. And another financial implication is to be determined through the supplemental budget approvals, which will bring a report to council. So at this particular point in time, we're suggesting here that Municipal Council receive this briefing for information. I can try to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. CAO. Are there any questions of clarification? I want to first of all point out that we're not special. Other municipalities have also received funding based on percentage allocations. Just because we're not special, however, doesn't mean we're not grateful. We do appreciate it. Open for questions. Councillor Hurl.
Could I make a motion to call dibs on regional sewer funding?
No.
Okay.
Councillor Harding.
Yeah, I just, looking at this money, and it would be great, yeah, like it says, capital costs or exchange it for the stuff we have to borrow for. So it's great to see it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or discussion? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, not a question, but just I think this is good news. And I would also say, as I don't know who got it. I don't know, but I do know we don't get the Municipal Financial Capacity Grant or equalization funding. And I don't know if this was an attempt to level the field and in some sense, but I think I'm very appreciative for it. And I'm glad to see it, particularly in a municipality that sometimes can feel like we get passed over for opportunities because we do tend to manage things relatively well around here. So it's nice to be recognized for that, and it's nice to get support for all of the excellent work we're doing. So thanks.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other comments, debate? Well, we're not at debate. We haven't moved the motion. But considering your effusive comments, Deputy Mayor, would you move the motion? Okay, a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Granger. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. This is simply a motion to receive. That's unanimously passed. Thanks very much. I'll let the record show that Councillor Killam has left his seat with respect to the next item, having declared a conflict of interest earlier in the evening when the agenda was approved. So we're dealing now with item 8E, artwork purchase, and the CAO is going to present on that item as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the intent with this particular request for decision is to have Municipal Council consider the purchase of canvas-mounted photographs for display within a municipal complex and possibly the EPW Operations Center. With that purchase would also come the right of use of those photographic images and other municipal applications. So a little bit of background, Councillor Killam proposed a sale of mounted photographs held by Killam Images to the municipality. I believe for a period of time they were on display in the councillor's office. He had brought some in. So photo images are transfers on canvas ranging in size between 12 by 16 inches to 30 by 40 inches. And they're mounted framed on wooden stretchers. However, those stretchers, at least in my opinion, would be suitable for hanging as is. As I mentioned, the offer also includes the rights to use those purchase images for other municipal applications, such as additional prints, signage, website, presentations, that type of thing. What has been discussed is $1,600 from GL accounts or GL account, well I guess there is two, as shown there, other administration and EPW supplies. Although the purchase amount is within the authority of staff, the CAO and the councillor, we believe that this purchase should come before council for consideration. I have to say that this is a little bit different, this alternative, than what's in your RFD, but there is an alternative that should have been stated in the RFD, which is that the municipality can, the council can request the CAO to look into a request for proposals pending a council approval of a budgetary amount. So if you wanted to go into an alternative direction, that is one alternative direction you may want to consider. So that Municipal Council approve the purchase of 6 canvas-mounted photographs and the associated right of use from Killam Images from Councillor Dick Killam, as described within the May 2nd, 2023 request for decision. So I guess I could just summarize by saying we're talking about 6 canvas-mounted photographs. I would think that would be at or below market value, and that would be placed in this building and EPW. So that would not be of sufficient quantity to do what we need to do in either of these buildings, but it would provide us with those images and the canvases themselves and the right to use those images. I can try to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Councillor Granger has a question.
I'm sorry, I don't have a question. I have more of a statement, so I'll just wait.
No, go ahead.
I'm kind of not feeling this. I appreciate Councillor Killam's art. There are young artists, there are Indigenous artists, there are Black artists, there are a lot of other things that could grace our building. So I'm not really in favor of this.
Okay, thank you. But you were right. That was, and I was wrong. That was a matter for
Sorry.
argument. Yeah. No, it's on me. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. This is a question, not debate, but I also have a debate. How do we normally decide on art? Like, I remember when we opened this building, we had a big conversation around who's going to put their art in here and how we're going to decide upon it. And has there been a guiding principle that we've followed up until this point?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the deputy, not a standard operating procedure, definitely not a policy, but you're correct in your memory. We did go to market and we tried to generate an art rental program through this building, and we weren't entirely successful with that endeavor. So if this is looked at as a one-off and these 6 prints, there could be other reason to go back to market to see. As I say, this building with 6 photographs is not the number you'd be looking for.
An art rental program does seem like a lot of work to administer. Like that, it does seem like a lofty goal, but in practice seems like probably a big headache. So I'm not surprised with the way it did. But it's a very noble undertaking, and I think this is something that's important to think about very carefully. So thank you for your answer.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Hurdle.
I certainly appreciate Councillor Killam's artwork, and I actually like it, and the proposal is that the price is very good, although I'd like to provide a more fair opportunity, as Councillor Granger has stated, to allow other artists to compete in this opportunity. So with the recommendation not made, could I make a motion that we instead put together an RFP to receive artwork submissions with a prescribed budget?
You probably can at a point. I can come back to you. Presently, I have a few lights on that wish to discuss clarification on this particular item. Councillor Harding.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a great start, no matter where it starts. It's kind of ground zero, and I think it's great that we start with this and move as we can afford it, move our artwork, continue it, I should say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mayor, through you to Scott. Do we know the 6 images, are they taken within Kings County? Do we know that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that's correct. There are several that are aerial photographs.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you. No other questions of clarification? Does anyone wish to move the motion to get it on the floor for debate? Moved by Councillor Armstrong, seconded by Councillor Harding. If this is defeated, then Councillor Hurdle, I'll come to you. So debate on the motion. Councillor Armstrong.
I am not in favor of this. The word privilege keeps banging around in my head, and I just think that this has a very skewed lens on it, not just for me, but for the listening public. And I think there's other ways to do this. I would be very open to what Councillor Hurdle had suggested, that we go to market and have all kinds of artists provide their works to us, and have an independent board bring forth what they see as a way to populate the walls here, but not this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hurtle?
While I have absolute respect for Councillor Killam and his artwork, I don't. As previously expressed on another item, sometimes the perception is that items can be self-serving for council or individual members of council. So without accusations of anything, it's more about the perception that I feel strongly that this may be taken poorly in the eyes of the public. So I am against this. Although the price tag is a really good price, we should open up the opportunity to more than an individual to allow their artwork to be displayed and purchased. So I'm against this motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Meisner?
Thank you. Yes. As chair of Diversity Kings County, I would be grossly remiss if I did not speak to this. I also sit on our accessibility committee as well. We have made a lot of commitments to a lot of marginalized groups within our county, and we've set that in policy. We've set it in our strategic planning, and we are stepping majorly out of line with what we have committed to if we are going to move forward with this without considering those who do not have this type of privilege. So I will be voting against this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad this was brought to us, although it puts us in a bit of an awkward spot, admittedly, and staff as well. So I'm sort of sorry that that's an element of it. And I wanted to also just say, I have no doubt in my mind that this was an act of generosity, and it was done with the best intent. And this is an offer that was made with an absolute pure intention. There's no doubt in my mind that that is true. That being said, we'll not be supporting the motion, and we'll be looking for an alternative route by which to decorate our building and support our community of artists, of whom Councillor Killam is one, and a darn good one at that. But will not be supporting this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no other lights, and I will be voting on the motion as well, so I should state my reasons for the manner in which I'll vote. I was among the innocents when the matter came before us this evening. I agree with the comments of the Deputy Mayor that the intentions of the owner of the photographs and of the CAO are absolutely pure, that the price is probably far below the real market value, but that the perception is not one which we should be propagating for all the reasons that have already been stated. And I think that the councillor will completely understand our position in that regard. There's a few of his photographs that I'd love to have, but when we talk about a public building and the adornment of the building or buildings, then certainly we should be opening it up to all comers. Now, that said, we did do that at one stage when Jeanette Goulet was on staff. One of her jobs was to reach out to all of the community and attempt to see whether any of the community wished to have their work hang within the municipal building. And as the program progressed, it became well, perhaps instead of spending a great deal of money buying individual works, we could get into a lease program, and it would give the artists exposure in a public building, and would give us the opportunity to adorn our walls. We got very little uptake from the artistic community, and we touched all of them. But it may, if we were to do it again, we might get a different reaction. We've been here for a while now. And in any event, if we were to do such a thing, as has been stated in my opinion, I agree with the statement that if we had a group appointed that would the technical word escapes me, that would vet these images as they came forward and make recommendations to council with a specific budget in mind, that would probably be the way to go. And Councillor Killam's work or any similar work would certainly be able to participate in that program. So for all those reasons, I'll be voting against the motion, but that is certainly not to be seen to be a vote against the councillor or his intent or staff or their intent. It just happens to have brought the matter to the fore. And I thank you all for shedding a light on it that I hadn't properly considered. So I see no other lights, no other comments. I'm calling the question. All those in favor or otherwise of the motion, please vote now. Oh my goodness. I've lost control of council. But the motion is defeated with 2 affirmative votes. Councillor Armstrong, you had your light on. I'm sorry, I didn't get
Yes, I'm assuming they're probably in need of a break, but I just wanted to let council know that I am going to be leaving. I have a bit of a drive ahead of me, and there's some motions coming forward from the nominating committee, and I'll ask the vice chair if he will take care of that. So, thank you,
Councillor. We recognize that you have to go to the city of Digby this evening, and you'll be carrying the torch on behalf of the entire municipality. Would you like to take a break at this point in time? We're having a 15-minute recess. Thank you. Call the meeting back to order, folks, please. We are now on item 9, financial services, and 9A has to do with amendments to bylaw 45, the street lighting, and we're dealing with second reading. And it's a motion to give second reading to amend that particular bylaw. So the recommended motion is that Municipal Council give second reading to amend the street lighting bylaw, bylaw 45, as attached to the May 2nd, 2023 Council agenda. Do I have a mover of the motion? Moved by Councillor Meisner. Seconded by Councillor Hurtle. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote no. The motion is unanimously passed. Item 9B, amendments to policy FIN 05003, fees. The recommended motion is that Municipal Council adopt amendments to policy FIN 05003, fees, as attached to the May 2nd, 2023 Council agenda. A move for the motion, please. Moved by Councillor Granger, seconded by Councillor Meisner. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. Apparently I'm pronouncing now with a Valley accent because Councillor Hurtle asked whether I was asking him to vote no. It's good after 2¼ hours, we still have a sense of humor in there. The motion's passed unanimously. Thank you. Item C, amendments to policy FIN 05006, procurement. It's a recommended motion that Municipal Council adopt amendments to policy FIN 05006, procurement, as attached to the May 2nd, 2023 Council agenda. Moved by Councillor Allen, seconded by Councillor Hurtle. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That's passed unanimously. Thank you. Item 9D, Bylaw 99, tax exemption for non-profit organizations. First reading. And with respect to a first reading, we're looking to Mr. Scott McKay to present on that particular item. Mr. McKay, when you're ready.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Mattart and Council. This evening I'm here to present several recommendations for decision regarding our current bylaw number 99, tax exemption for nonprofit organizations. The first recommendation is that Municipal Council give first reading to repeal bylaw 99, being the tax exemption for nonprofit organizations bylaw for the municipality of the County of Kings. Second, that Municipal Council provide 7 days notice per section 48, subsection 1, Municipal Government Act to adopt policy Finance 05-026, tax exemption for nonprofit organizations with the inclusion of the flower cart property, assessment account number 009-18083, to Schedule A, and the exemption at a rate of 40% to all village-owned water utility properties effective April 1st, 2023, as set out in Schedule B. And finally, that Municipal Council authorized the write-off of $13,050.30 related to the 2022-23 tax charges of the village-owned water utility properties as detailed in the May 2nd, 2023 request for decision. For a bit of background, in its description of exempt properties, the Assessment Act states that any properties owned, operated, or managed by a municipality, either directly or indirectly, or through a medium of a board or commission for the purpose of producing, transmitting, delivering, or furnishing electricity, natural gas, water, or power directly or indirectly to or for the public, shall be assessed and taxed by that municipality. The Municipal Government Act provides Municipal Council a method of relief from such taxation via an exemption policy adopted by Council, identifying these properties. The changes included in today's recommendations address the water utility properties in Kings County. Staff are recommending the change from a bylaw to a policy for our tax exemptions for several reasons. The policy is a more appropriate governance tool given the issue at hand. Tax exemption is an administrative matter that and policies regulate what we do administratively, while bylaws are often more appropriate for regulating matters external to the administration. The MGA sometimes dictates what tools should be used, and in this case, the MGA references a policy specifically. And finally, policies are administratively easier to change. Only 7 days notice required versus the bylaw requirements for time and advertising. And given that we will likely need to change the schedule on an annual basis, a policy is deemed more appropriate. The historical assessments of the water utility properties in Kings County and province-wide really have been inconsistent over the years. Several of the properties in Kings County have bounced back and forth between taxable to non-taxable and back. The correct classification for these properties should be Class O2 commercial taxable. As mentioned in the RFD, the assessments of these properties are likely to be on the radar of PVSC at this time, so changes to the proper classification in future years should not be surprising. The changes proposed this evening will bring all water utility properties into line with the process currently in place for the Greenwood Water Utility, a 40% reduction of property tax charges only and not area rates. In 2004, that 40% figure was a compromise to potential other ratepayers whose own water infrastructure, that being private wells, were not being subsidized by the municipality. And I'll give you some examples here just to show you a little bit about the disparity. These are the two water towers in New Minas. So the Bush Lane water tower is on the left. That is located off of Deep Hollow Road. It is assessed as taxable Class O2 property, and it is valued at $560,000 and has a property tax bill because of the classification of $12,809. The Woodvale Place water tower is the one that you drive past on the 101. It is assessed as non-taxable Class 22 with a property value of $3.3 million, but there is no tax bill because of the classification of the property as 22. Two other water towers in our county here, Canning and Port Williams. If you compare the two there's a similar disparity, and they are really appear to be pretty much identical structures. Both are Class 22 exempt and don't create a tax bill, but if you look at the assessed value on them, they range from $5,000 to almost $600,000 in value. So by comparison, also I had mentioned I had listed there I wanted to take a look at other municipal units and what they are doing. So Region of Queens and the Municipality of West Hants, Richmond and the County of Colchester exempt all of their water utility properties from all taxes as well as area rates. The Municipality of Cumberland, the County of Pictou, and the District of Chester exempt 100% of their property tax but not area rates. It is a position of staff that County of Kings, that water utility assets should be more adequately supported by the water ratepayers and not be wholly subsidized by the municipality and by general ratepayers. The 40% exemption that is recommended provides a similar balance to the 2004 council decision, as well as what currently occurs with the Greenwood utility. However, for the 2022-23 year, we are recommending that the total tax bill be written off for the affected utility properties due to the unexpected assessments provided by PVSC for that year. Moving to the Flower Cart Group, this is another property that we're adding, recommending addition to coverage this year. Oh, pardon me. The Flower Cart has been included in some sort of tax exemption with the municipality of the County of Kings for several decades now. The organization has for 46 years now provided employment and training opportunities to hundreds of adults facing challenges and various barriers. They've now outgrown their current facility and will be moving to a new location just down the street over the next several months. We have received a request to include this new property under the proposed policy at a rate of 90%, and that 90% reflects the portion of the building that is dedicated to charitable activities. Their existing property currently on Commercial Street is for sale, and in fact has a sold sign on it at the current time. So if we look at the financial impact for 2022-2023, staff are recommending, as I had mentioned, a write-off of $13,050.30, debiting the GL 01-3-321-100, taxes receivable. And for 23-24, at a rate of 40% for the water utilities and at a rate of 90% for the flower cart property, $8,338 would be added to the property tax exemption. And I had mentioned a moment ago that the current flower cart property has been sold. As soon as that changes hands, it would then fall off of the exemption list unless the new owners are doing something of a similar nature and would come forward with application. That current property tax exemption is $15,611, so that exemption will actually disappear. The removal of the $30,000 exemption limit that is currently in place would have no immediate financial impact, as no properties are actually currently taxed at that level, but it is possible that we could see that change in the near future when the flower cart property is completed. So once again, the recommendations before you are, first of all, that Municipal Council give first reading to repeal Bylaw 99, being the tax exemption for nonprofit organizations bylaw of the municipality of the County of Kings. Second, that Municipal Council provides 7 days notice per Section 48, subsection 1, Municipal Government Act, to adopt policy Finance 05026, tax exemption for nonprofit organizations, with the inclusion of the flower cart property, assessment account number 009-18083, to Schedule A, and the exemption at a rate of 40% of all village-owned water utility properties effective April 1st, 2023, as set out in Schedule B. And finally, that Municipal Council authorized the write-off of $13,050.30 related to the 2022-23 tax charges of the village-owned water utility properties as detailed in the May 2nd, 2023 request for decision. And with that, I would be happy to take your questions.
Thank you, Mr. McKay. Anybody have a question of clarification on the presentation? Councillor Granger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just wondering if the assessment values that are does that include the land, or?
It includes everything that is in that property. So as an example, the canning, it's probably an acre of land that surrounds that water tower, but it's so haphazard that the way it's done, it's really hard to.
That's a huge.
Make sense. So
yes.
My apologies. That was through the mayor to the council.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. This is just making me think about nonprofit organizations and their ability to own property, and curious if we have a sense of how many are out there that are owning and maintaining buildings, because I know a lot of them, they rent space or they use community halls, but they must have to be well organized, well funded to be able to own a property and then be able to be on this list, right? And do we have a sense of how many are out there? And it's just for curiosity's sake, because I think it's an excellent idea, and I think we should be doing our best to support nonprofit organizations who are doing great work in our communities. Just curious if we have a sense. I've always really loved the daycare allowance. I've always really appreciated that we do this, and I'm very happy to see it be expanded. Just curious if we know if there's a lot of these out there.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, all I can tell you is that of the properties that are covered, the vast majority are commercially assessed and have buildings or structures on them. There are 99, I believe, right now covered under the bylaw. That has dropped a little bit because we had, I think, 7 2 years ago that sold. Remember, we had a number that we removed from the bylaw
Yes.
because they had changed hands and no longer qualified for coverage. But I also look back to the year of 2020, 2021, when COVID was a big issue. A lot of the charitable organizations had a tough time keeping their buildings in good shape. So a lot of them do seem to be getting back on their feet now, for sure.
Great. That's good news. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions of clarification? Back to the water towers for a second. If our habit has been, I take it from what you've said, to assess and tax these properties and the assets that are fixed on them, I assume the cost of that is pushed downstream, if you'll pardon the pun, to the ratepayers of the water utility. Is that correct?
Well, in the case of Greenwood, as an example, that's the only one that's really been taxed, for a number of years, because new minus that one water tower in Bush Lane just became taxable last year. Under normal circumstances, yes, it would be, borne by the owner of the utility, who in turn would have to turn around and collect from the ratepayers to cover that. In the case of Greenwood, we've always had that exempted to 40%, so the remaining 60% in taxation, it comes out of, that bill goes out to that owner of the Greenwood water utility, and it is paid, but.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor Hurdle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I think I heard that correctly. So Greenwood's been paying continually while the other villages have kind of just come into the fold, or will be potentially?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it all comes down to how it is assessed, each property. So if it's assessed as a Class 22 non-taxable property, then our tax system doesn't tax a non-taxable property. If it's Class 2, such as the Greenwood water utility has been and has now the Bush Lane property is, tax bills ensue as a result of that. So Class 22 is commercial exempt, Class 2 is commercial, taxable. Do I make sense?
Some of it is unclear why there's that. Why was the difference in class applied originally?
I wish I could.
Okay.
I wish I could answer that. It's PVSC creates the assessment roll for us, and we kind of take what we get. Are there errors on it, or are there disparities on it? Yes, that is the feeling. I mean, to take a look at those comparative properties that I showed you on the screen, and you look at the valuation and even the way they are assessed, Class 2 versus Class 22, why? I can't answer that. It is on their radar now, so I would not be surprised if we were to see some changes in the near future in terms of the way properties of that type are assessed.
Thank you.
The classification is
Class 2 is commercial,
who
taxable.
applies the classification?
PVSC, 100%.
It's not our application.
No.
No, okay.
No, we just put the tax rate, and the tax rate calculates against whatever assessment code is given to us.
Okay, thanks for that. Any other questions of clarification? Seeing none, perhaps we can roll the recommended motions up again, please. So the first recommended motion is that Municipal Council give first reading to repeal Bylaw 99, being the tax exemption for nonprofit organizations bylaw of the municipality of the County of Kings. Do I have a mover of the motion? Councillor Hurdle, a seconder. Councillor Allen, any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That's unanimously passed. Thank you. And the next recommended motion is that the Municipal Council provide 7 days' notice per Section 48 Sub 1 of the Municipal Government Act to adopt policy FIN 05026, tax exemption for nonprofit organizations, with the inclusion of a flower cart property, that is to say, assessment number 009-18083, to Schedule A, and the exemption at a rate of 40% of all village-owned water utility properties effective April 1st, 2023, as set out in Schedule B. Do I have a mover of the motion? Moved by the Deputy Mayor, a seconder, seconded by Councillor Granger. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That's unanimously passed. Thank you. And the third, that Municipal Council authorize the write-off of $13,050.30 related to the 2022-2023 tax charges of the village-owned water utility properties as detailed in the May 2nd, 2023 request for decision. Mover of the motion, Deputy Mayor, seconder, Councillor Allen. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. And that motion is unanimously passed. Thank you. Thank you, sir, for your presentation.
Thank you very kindly.
I do have a question from Councillor Hurtle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mildly, the motion's already passed, but I'm just recalling our code of conduct. And one of the lines states, no member of council shall grant any special consideration, treatment, or advantage to any citizen or group of citizens beyond that which is accorded to all citizens. So if we're exempting last year's tax obligations on the water utilities for the other villages, do we not have an obligation, at least just for this year, to do the same for Greenwood?
I didn't catch the presenter's comments on the status of Greenwood, but we'll explore the issue for you when he's back in the room.
Thank you.
Mr. Barr might have a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for clarification for the rest, so you are correct, Greenwood Water Utility has had only the 40% exemption since 2004, whereas the other properties have been tax exempt from PVSC. So there is obviously a discrepancy in this recommendation is trying to bring everything in line with that. More so, the recommendation around the write-off of the 22-23 is more based on, I guess, natural law associated with the fact that they've never had that bill in the past, and wanted to ensure that continuity for them in that water utility because it was unexpected. So that's why those recommendations were specifically on those properties, and now on a go-forward basis, bring in alignment with the Greenwood Water Utility at 40%.
All right, does that respond, Councillor Hurtle?
Yeah, for the most part, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Barr. We're coming now to 10A, which has to do with proclamations, actually all of 10, well, not all of 10, but a couple of 3 of 10 have to do with proclamations, and the first recommended motion is that Municipal Council proclaim May 2023 Gaelic Month in the municipality of the County of Kings. Do I have a mover of the motion? Moved by Councillor Harding, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Councillor Harding did make the motion in Gaelic. Yes. Aye. And I'm open for discussion on the motion. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That's unanimously passed. Thank you. And we have a proclamation request regarding Asian Heritage Month. And the recommendation is that Municipal Council proclaim May 2023 Asian Heritage Month in the municipality of the County of Kings. Could I have a mover of the motion, please? Councillor Granger. A seconder, Councillor Allen. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That's unanimously passed. Thank you. And that brings us to item 10D, Valley Waste Resource Management Authority 2023-2024 operating budget. Oops. We have a 10C that I had already checked off. I'm ahead of everybody. That's the way I'd like to put it. Another proclamation request regarding International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia. And it's recommended that Municipal Council proclaim May 17th, 2023, International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia. Do I have a mover of the motion? Councillor Hurtle. A seconder, Councillor Granger. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That's unanimously passed. Thank you. And that brings us to item D, Valley Waste Resource Management Authority operating budget. The recommended motion is that Municipal Council approve the 2023-2024 operating budget for the Valley Region Solid Waste Resource Management Authority with total expenditures of $11,606,442 as attached as Appendix A to the April 18th, 2023 request for decision. Do I have a mover of the motion? Moved by Councillor Allen. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Discussion on the motion. No discussion. All those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That's unanimously passed. Thank you. Moving to item 10E, Valley Waste Resource Management Authority capital budget. The recommended motion is that Municipal Council approve the 2023-2024 capital budget for the Valley Region Solid Waste Resource Management Authority with total expenditures of $2,531,000 as attached as Appendix A to the April 18th, 2023 request for decision. Mover of the motion, please. Moved by Councillor Killam, and a seconder, the Deputy Mayor. All those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That's unanimously passed. Councillor Hurtle, did you intend to vote on that motion? Sorry, I'll get your light there for you. Yes.
Yes, I was going to vote in favor, although I wanted to comment that I hope we can see these budgets come in a more timely fashion from now into the future. We're a bit late on this.
Yeah, comment noted. Thank you. And no disagreement. That brings us to item 11, nominating committee recommendations of April 18th, 2023. Councillor Armstrong has had to leave for a NSFM meeting in Digby, and I believe that she's left this onus with you, Councillor Hurtle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And so item A, councillor appointment to boards committee, just backfilling the absences left by Councillor Windsor. And so the first recommendation is that Municipal Council appoint Deputy Mayor Lutz to the Planning Advisory Committee for the term ending November 30th, 2023. And I so move.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Granger, thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. The motion passes unanimously. And the next item.
That Municipal Council appoint Deputy Mayor Lutz to the New Minas Source Water Protection Committee with Mayor Matart as alternate for a term ending November 30th, 2023.
Do you move the motion?
I will move that motion.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Allen. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. The motion passes unanimously. And the next item.
And that Municipal Council appoint Councillor Allen to the Kings Regional Rehabilitation Center Board for a term ending November 30th, 2023. I so move.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Killam. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That passes unanimously. Thank you.
And Municipal Council appoint myself, Councillor Hurdle, to the Regional Sewer Committee with Mayor Matart as alternate for a term ending November 30th, 2023.
Thank you. I'll look for another mover, please. Councillor Allen, thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Granger, thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. The motion passes unanimously.
I thought about voting against that. That's a joke. The next motion being Municipal Council appoint Councillor Armstrong to the Valley Regional Enterprise Network Liaison and Oversight Committee for the term ending November 30th, 2023. I so move.
And a seconder, Councillor Allen. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That's unanimously approved. Thank you. And the next one.
Municipal Council appoint Councillor Armstrong to the Budget and Finance Committee for the term ending November 30th, 2023. I so move.
A seconder, please. Councillor Killam. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That's unanimous. Thank you.
And now moving on to item B, citizen appointment to Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee with filling in absence. That Municipal Council reappoint Dina Wampold and Alan Price as the citizen representatives on the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee for a 3-year term commencing June 1st, 2023. I so move.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Granger. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. Is that your whole slate now, Councillor?
One more.
Okay.
That Municipal Council.
We'll just wait for the results here. I'm sorry, I was jumping the gun. That's unanimously passed. Thank you. And now the next one.
That Municipal Council appoint Shelley Hopkins as citizen representative on the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee for a 3-year term commencing June 1st, 2023. I so move.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Allen. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. Is that the last count? No, that's not the last, is it?
No, I had to scroll down a page.
This motion was unanimously passed.
Sorry. We've got, this is a Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee recommendation. Do you like to pass the
I'll carry it then.
Yeah.
This is 12A, and it's been recommended that Municipal Council proclaim May 28th to June 3rd, 2023, Access Awareness Week in the municipality of the County of Kings. Could I have a mover of the motion? Councillor Allen, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. Thank you. It's unanimously passed, and it brings us to item 13, Board and Committee Reports. Regional Emergency Management Advisory Committee report was submitted by Dan Stovall of Kings Remo. Are there any additional reports from committee councillors regarding committees of council? Any verbal reports? Councillor Hurtle?
Would it be appropriate to provide a report on the publicly called RCMP meeting in the Aylesford Fire Station?
You attended it in your capacity as councillor, of course. Yeah,
Yes.
Go ahead.
So it took place on April 26th, lasting about 2.5 hours at the Aylesford Fire Hall, and the purpose was in a community called meeting to address some of the concerns of those in Aylesford and surrounding area regarding property crime, and with an increase in property crime. In attendance were representing from the RCMP, Staff Sergeant Nugent and Corporal Fowler, as well representing Chris D'Entremont was Brian Hurtle, as well MLA Chris Palmer was in attendance, and from council I was there, as well as Councillor Harding, with representatives from Aylesford, Greenwood, and Kingston Villages. And in essence, it was a town hall style meeting with roughly 60 in attendance, mainly with questions and concerns regarding the police services and how they were being received essentially in the area, and with the concern that there was an increase in property crime. Notably, this was an item that was brought up in the previous Police Services Advisory Committee meeting. And so with some of the questions and comments, and perhaps I can read through just a couple of the questions that was presented to the RCMP officers. There was a concern that there was a reduction in the rate of return of phone calls from officers. There was a concern that there was a tractor stolen that was worth $70,000. And then finally wrapping up, there was interest in ensuring that all those in a political capacity within the room was there, able, willing, and listening to the concerns brought forward by the public. And with the officers there, they had also brought forward some concerns themselves. And I'll be filing this report in writing. It's written, it's just not submitted. With that, oh, and I should note that both officers in the room, the staff sergeant has only been in his operational capacity within Kings County since March, and Officer Fowler only since August. So they were quite new to the area, but very, there's a lot of respect for them to show up and address some community concerns and questions regarding the issues that were brought forward, as well as some concerns with crimes and toppling over of grave markers in the cemetery local to Aylesford. And you can also find a comprehensive report on the events of the evening from Adrian Johnstone on his social media post, The Valley Eye. And that should be sufficient for my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other verbal reports, either with regard to committees of council or external boards and committees? Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I have a couple. The Annapolis Valley Trails Coalition is meeting again this month, but we had a meeting last month, and I did distribute the work plan. So if anybody has any questions about any of the projects slated for Kings County, they're all color-coded. It's a pretty good list. Just let me know. And I wanted to clarify some of the comments I made in my committee report last month on the landscape of Grand Pré. I noted that the landscape of Grand Pré had indicated support for the development of a trailhead. That support was done by motion via email, and it was not unanimous. And we've since discovered that if it's not unanimous, it needs to be ratified at a in-person meeting of the board, which we will be doing at our next board meeting on May 25th. So did want to clarify those comments. I don't know how the vote will go, obviously, but it will be sort of re-voted upon due to the lack of unanimity. So we'll back that announcement up a couple steps, and then I'll keep you updated. And the last thing is the Annapolis Valley Library Board. We had our first meeting with our new CEO. It was 4.5 hours long. We had a working session where we sort of like cracked things open from the very beginning. We had a number of really, really good conversations about where the library is at right now, where it's going, and a few highlights. I just wanted to point you all to the library's new website. If you've never seen a fully accessible website before, it's pretty incredible. There's like a little person in the bottom right-hand corner that you can click on. You can change the font size. It can be modified for folks who have epilepsy. It can be modified to be read. It can be there are so many modifications that can be done, and it's absolutely stunning just to play around with. And then if you get your settings totally misconfigured, there's like a reset button, so you can just go back to the beginning, which is important because I spent a long time playing with it. It was great. And the other thing I just wanted to point to is our library, of all the libraries in the same page system, which is the new system of boring articles, has the most material checked out of any library system in the province. So we do lead the way in terms of materials distributed, which is pretty exciting. And part of the reason is because there's no limit on how many holds you can put on books. So you used to only be able to put on a couple of different holds, but now, well, there's no late fees, and also you can put as many holds on as you want. So people have been going wild with the renting books from the library. And there you can get seeds from the library. That's big right now. So if you're looking to plant your garden, the seed library is happening. And then finally, for the folks who don't know, you can get ebooks and read on your phone, read on your tablet through Libby and Hoopla, and they're free. You just sign in with your library card. You can get audiobooks, you can get comic books, read and sing along books. It's just really incredible, and I've spent some time since our board meeting going through these resources, and they truly are absolutely wonderful and free. So for anyone in this room or listening in online who may be wanting to access these resources, I would happily meet with anyone who wants help going through it. But there's also upcoming sessions that you can find on the website that actually talk you how to use the Hoopla and the Libby because it can be, it doesn't sound like real words, so it can be a little bit deterring at first to understand what it is. But there are actually sessions coming up at every library in the AVRL library system that talk to you through how to access these things, and it truly is an absolute gem. And I'm going to try and do better at my committee reports because really it is it's a shining gem in all the work that we do. And so anyway, if you have any questions on any of the above, feel free to reach out.
Thank you. That is exciting, and I'll point some people I know to it as a result of your report. Councillor Harding.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I did a Kings Point report and an audit committee report and sent them in, but I can't seem to get my minutes and stuff in time for some of these. And anyway, they'll be coming through the committee of the whole, but I don't mind doing them, but I just can't. Sometimes the meetings are after the date. So anyway, I'll try to get them in, and even though they're going to be late or the next time, they'll be there.
Yep, that's quite acceptable. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hurtle.
I'd like to also provide the report for today's Asset Management Committee meeting, and I'll try to wing my report as best as possible, as it only took place this afternoon. But I do have some notes on what happened. We had a presentation from Matt Delorme, who works with the Ames Network. And if you're wondering what Ames Network stands for, it's the Atlantic Infrastructure Management Network. And they've kind of been following alongside of our municipality to develop and build some open source tools that may be useful to other municipalities to use into the future, so they don't have to duplicate what we have. Some of Matt's opening statements were interesting, and I thought quite they demonstrate MOK in a good light. So with $369.1 million in infrastructure assessment, he had stated that of the 100+ municipalities he's engaged with on the subject, we have one of the lowest capital expenditure demands per resident. We're doing some great things, reducing some of the sprawl of our municipality, and he stated in his personal and professional opinion that we were doing the right thing with the way we proceed as a municipality regarding our asset management. And so he covered some of what he calls the holy trinity of asset management, which essentially, it's risk, the three things. It's risk, levels of service, and cost. So those are the things that you need to really focus on and consider as part of your long-term planning for a municipality and government in general, which may apply to further levels of government. And with our changing demographics, it may bring changes in demands and expectations and levels of service, but it is with conjunction of council and the citizens we represent to kind of come together on a consensus on what we should really be providing as levels of service, be it roadways, sidewalks, or timely expenditures of services. With asset management policy, essentially, he covered that you're looking for service delivery to customer, comprehensive approach, long-term sustainability, resilience, fiscal responsibility, decision-making, and continuous improvement. Notably, and this is a point that maybe I'll end on because I don't want to drag you through the entire presentation, but, and something I'm taking away for myself, he said that in Canada, given some of the decisions in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, there was no consideration given with the assets that we have as a country, and that would therefore potentially apply to provinces and municipalities. So we need to consider the infrastructure that we have and be creative in what we pick and choose to support into the future. And so with that, I will leave it there and provide a more formal written report into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other reports? Are there any questions that any councillor has regarding any of the reports that have been presented? Seeing none, then I'd like us to consider a motion that Municipal Council receive the board and committee reports as attached to the May 2nd, 2023 Council agenda and as provided verbally. Mover the motion, please. Councillor Harding, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That's unanimously approved. Thank you. Moving on to item 14, correspondence. There are 2 items of correspondence which have been received and are on your agenda, one from Waterbury Newton Law, one from Indigenous Services Canada. And I'm looking for a motion to receive the correspondence, please. Moved by Councillor Harding. I think Councillor Harding's up there first, and then Councillor Allen's the second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. And I'll mention while we're waiting for the results of the vote that the letter from Waterbury Newton related to the proposed development of a spa at Baxter's Harbour area, and it wasn't a matter that was technically legal in nature from the point of view of the municipality, but the letter arrives from a solicitor, and it's important that if it were to develop into something of a legal nature, that we have solicitors examine the issue. And the letter with respect to Indigenous Services Canada, they were advising us of a proposed addition to the Glooscap First Nation Reserve of property that the reserve, or that the First Nation purchased some time ago. And as most would know, there is a technical waiting period before they can apply to have it brought into the reserve itself as reserve land. And when that happens, we receive notice of that. So that's what that relates to. Is there any other business to come before the meeting? No other business? Well, the intention is at this stage of the game that we look to the public for comments. And the one member of the public indicates that there be no comments from the public this evening, but it's at this point in time that we want to move into a closed session with a view to returning to open session for a couple of motions if necessary. So I'm looking for a motion, therefore, that we move into closed session, but we are not adjourning this session. We intend to return. Motion that we move into closed session under Section 22 of the Municipal Government Act, moved by Councillor Allen. A seconder, Councillor Killam. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That's unanimously approved, so we go directly into closed session. We go offline while we are in closed session, and we'll come back online as soon as we are. provide the electronic voting requirements for the special election in District 8 for the amount of $11,052.02, including non-rebated HST, to be funded from the Municipal Election Reserve with the ability to accept an increase commensurate to the final number of electors. Could I have a mover of the motion, please? Councillor Allen. A seconder, the Deputy Mayor. Any discussion on the motion? All questions were answered during the in-camera session, so we'll go right to call the question. All those in favor or otherwise, please vote now. That's approved unanimously. Thank you. And the other item that was under discussion had to do with EV charging stations, which has been a project that has been on our radar now for some time, and now we appear to be well postured to proceed with that. And the motion that's recommended is that Municipal Council approve utilization of $135,000 from the Municipal Buildings Capital Reserve GL 41-4-460-401 to supplement the financing plan for the Municipal Fleet and EV Charging Stations project, which is project number 21-3403, GL 23-3-382-901, resulting in a total municipal project contribution of $495,000. Could I have a mover of the motion, please? Moved by Councillor Allen, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Any discussion on the motion? This arose for the information of the public from the fact that we have received some grant funding to help us with this project, and that enables us to launch it. And however, the grant funding was a little bit less than we thought it was, and so this motion approves the shortfall from our capital reserve to get the project accomplished. So, no other questions or debates. I'm calling the question. All those in favor or otherwise of the motion, please vote now. That's unanimously approved. Thank you. Is there any other business to come before the meeting? No other business? Motion to adjourn would be in order. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Allen. All those in favor or otherwise of the motion to adjourn, please vote now. And while we're waiting for the result, I want to thank Council for helping us move this meeting along so quickly. It's certainly time that we adjourned, but we got a lot of business accomplished. So thanks to everyone, and for those that are going off to the NSFM meeting coming up, I wish you good weather and good deliberations. And in the meantime, Councillor Harding and I regret that we have to attend, not regret, we're very pleased to have to attend a district meeting that's going to be held in Millville? Millville. Yeah. We are adjourned.